I stopped my car outside the old brick building and stared at the front door for almost a full minute. My hand was still resting on the steering wheel, but I could not remember why I had driven there in the first place. I looked at the address on my phone again. It matched the building in front of me. I took a slow breath, picked up my bag, and walked inside, hoping that once I stepped through the door, everything would begin to make sense. My name is Evelyn Brooks, and I worked as a clinical psychologist. Every day I listened to people who struggled with anxiety, grief, fear, and painful memories. I believed that every human mind carried hidden stories, even when people could not find the words to explain them. My work was never about giving easy answers. It was about helping others discover the truth they already carried inside themselves. Until recently, I never imagined that I would become the person searching for my own truth. The clinic where I worked was quiet and welcoming. Warm lights filled the waiting room, soft music played in the background, and shelves of books covered one wall from floor to ceiling. My patients often told me they felt calmer the moment they entered the building. I smiled every time I heard those words because creating a safe place had always been important to me. If you are learning English, notice the word welcoming. It describes a place or person that makes others feel comfortable and accepted. Instead of saying, "The office was nice," you can say, "The office felt welcoming." Learning descriptive words like this helps your English sound more natural during conversations and storytelling. For many years, my life followed the same comfortable routine. I met my patients during the day, returned home in the evening, cooked dinner with my husband Nathan, and spent the rest of the night reading or preparing notes for the next morning. Nathan worked as an architect and often came home carrying blueprints rolled under one arm. He enjoyed designing quiet spaces where people could feel peaceful. Perhaps that was why we understood each other so well. We both believed that environments could shape emotions. Everything changed after a professional conference in Portland. I had been invited to speak about emotional recovery after trauma. Hundreds of psychologists attended the event, and the discussions lasted 3 long days. I enjoyed every lecture, but on the final evening, I developed a terrible headache. The lights inside the conference hall seemed brighter than usual, and every sound echoed painfully inside my head. I assumed it was only exhaustion after several busy days. When I returned home the next afternoon, Nathan greeted me warmly and carried my suitcase upstairs before I even reached the front door. He noticed that I looked pale and insisted I rest for the evening instead of unpacking my things. His concern felt genuine, and I appreciated it more than I could express. The following morning, however, something unusual happened. I opened my laptop to continue preparing a research article that I clearly remembered writing before the conference. The document was there, but almost half of it had disappeared. Several pages had been replaced by completely different notes. The writing style looked familiar, yet I had no memory of creating those paragraphs. At first I laughed quietly. I assumed I had accidentally opened the wrong version of the file. I searched every folder on my computer, but each copy contained the same unexpected changes. Nathan noticed my frustration while making breakfast. He asked whether something was wrong, and I explained that part of my research had somehow been replaced. He smiled gently and reminded me that I had edited the article late one night before leaving for Portland. According to him, I had decided to rewrite several sections because I was unhappy with my original ideas. His explanation sounded reasonable. The only problem was that I could not remember making that decision. Many English learners confuse remember and remind. These two verbs have different meanings. Remember means you keep something in your own memory. Remind means another person helps you remember something. For example, I remembered my appointment, but my friend reminded me about my appointment. During the next week, similar moments became more frequent. One afternoon, I arrived at the clinic and discovered fresh flowers on my desk. A small thank you card was sitting beside them. It thanked me for helping a family through a difficult situation. The handwriting belonged to one of my patients, yet I could not remember our final session together. Another day, I found several books on childhood trauma arranged neatly beside my chair. My assistant, Sophia, smiled when she saw me looking at them. "I thought you wanted those close by," she said. I forced a polite smile. Apparently, I had asked for them the previous afternoon. Again, I remembered nothing. I blamed stress. Conferences often left me mentally exhausted. Long flights, changing schedules, and endless conversations could easily affect anyone's concentration. I repeated that explanation every time another forgotten detail appeared. Still, a quiet feeling of discomfort continued to grow. As psychologists, we often tell patients that memory is not like a perfect video recording. The brain rebuilds memories every time we recall them. This is why two people can experience the same event but remember it differently. Understanding this idea helps both English learners and psychology students because words like memory, recall, and perception often appear in books, podcasts, and conversations. One Friday evening, I stayed late at the clinic to organize patient files. The building had already become silent after everyone else left. While locking one of the cabinets, I noticed a thin notebook hidden beneath several folders. It belonged to me. The cover was dark blue, but I had never seen it before. Curious, I opened the first page. Every entry was written in my handwriting. The dates covered nearly 6 months. The strange part was not the notebook itself. It was what I had written. Each page described people I had apparently been observing. Their habits, their routines, and even the expressions they used during conversations were recorded in careful detail. None of them were my patients. Some names were completely unfamiliar, while others belonged to people I knew only casually. At the bottom of the final page, one sentence stood alone. "Someone is hiding behind borrowed memories. Don't accuse the wrong person." I stared at the words for several seconds. They felt important. They also felt completely impossible. I slowly closed the notebook and looked around the empty office. The hallway outside remained silent, yet I could not escape the feeling that someone had expected me to find those pages at exactly that moment. For the first time in my career, I wondered whether the greatest mystery was not hidden inside another person's mind. Perhaps it had been quietly waiting inside my own all along. Before I share the rest of story, I need to know, where are you listening from? I would love to hear from you. I carried the notebook home inside my handbag without telling anyone. The weight of it felt far heavier than a few sheets of paper. Every time I stopped at a traffic light, I glanced toward the passenger seat, almost expecting the notebook to disappear. It stayed exactly where I had placed it, yet my growing uneasiness refused to leave. Nathan was preparing dinner when I arrived. The smell of fresh herbs filled the kitchen, and soft music played from a speaker on the counter. He smiled as soon as he saw me and asked whether my day had gone well. I answered with a simple yes, because I was not ready to explain what I had found. Something inside me wanted to protect the notebook until I understood it myself. That evening, after Nathan had fallen asleep, I quietly returned to the living room. I opened the notebook under the warm light of a small lamp and began reading every page from the beginning. The notes became stranger with each chapter. I had described people entering cafes, visiting train stations, and walking through city parks. I even recorded the exact time they arrived and left. The most unsettling detail was that every observation ended with the same sentence, "Not the right one." I had no idea what those words meant. As you continue learning English, pay attention to the phrase "pay attention." It means to focus carefully on something. For example, you can say, "Pay attention to small details," instead of saying only, "Look carefully." These natural expressions make your English sound smoother and more confident. The following Monday, I decided to ask Sophia a few careful questions. She had worked beside me for almost 4 years and noticed things that most people ignored. During our lunch break, I casually asked whether she remembered me leaving the clinic often during the past few months. She looked surprised. "You've been leaving early almost every Thursday," she replied. I frowned. "I have?" She nodded without hesitation. "You always said you had private research meetings downtown." My stomach tightened. I had never conducted private research outside the clinic. At least, I could not remember doing it. That afternoon, I searched my calendar. Every Thursday evening for the past 6 months contained the same appointment. Project Atlas. No address, no description, only 2 words. I stared at the screen for several long moments, hoping another memory would appear. Nothing happened. When people learn English, they often mix up the words appointment, meeting, and schedule. An appointment is arranged in advance, usually with a doctor, lawyer, or professional. A meeting is when people gather to discuss something. A schedule is the complete plan showing when different events happen. Knowing these differences helps you communicate more accurately. That evening, I decided not to ask Nathan about Project Atlas. Instead, I drove downtown after work the following Thursday. My calendar notification appeared exactly at 6 o'clock. It contained only one address. The building stood near the river, between 2 modern office towers. From outside, it looked ordinary, with dark glass windows and no company sign above the entrance. A receptionist greeted me the moment I walked inside. "Good evening, Dr. Brooks." I froze. She knew my name. "I believe there must be some mistake," I answered carefully. Her smile never changed. "Conference room 4 is waiting." Before I could ask another question, she pointed toward a hallway. My heart beat faster with every step. Conference room 4 was empty. A projector rested on the table beside a closed laptop. Someone had already prepared a chair facing the screen. As soon as I entered, the lights dimmed automatically, and the projector switched on by itself. A video began to play. The woman on the screen was me. I was wearing different clothes and sitting inside the same room. I looked directly into the camera. "If you're watching this," my recorded voice said calmly, "then your memory reconstruction has already started." I stopped breathing for a moment. The woman on the screen continued speaking. "You will believe that your memories disappeared by accident. They didn't. You asked for this process yourself." I shook my head. No. The word escaped my lips before I realized I had spoken aloud. The recording continued. "There are reasons you cannot remember yet. If the reconstruction is interrupted too early, innocent people may be placed in danger." The screen suddenly went black. No explanation, no ending, only silence. I rushed toward the laptop, hoping to replay the recording, but every file had disappeared. The hard drive contained nothing except an empty folder. Someone had erased everything, or someone had planned for me to see only those few minutes. I left the building feeling more confused than before. For the first time, I considered the possibility that nobody had stolen my memories. Perhaps I had hidden them myself. Learning English becomes easier when you connect vocabulary with emotions. Think about the word confused. Instead of memorizing its meaning alone, imagine standing in an unfamiliar place where nothing makes sense. When words are connected to feelings, they stay in your memory much longer because your brain remembers experiences better than simple definitions. Back at home, Nathan noticed I was unusually quiet. He asked whether I wanted tea before bed. His voice sounded gentle, exactly as it always had. I watched him carefully while he poured hot water into 2 cups. Every movement felt natural. Nothing suggested he was hiding anything. The notebook warned me not to accuse the wrong person. The video had repeated the same idea in a different way. For the first time, I wondered whether my growing suspicion had been leading me toward the wrong target all along. Late that night, I unlocked my office computer remotely from home. Curiosity had become stronger than fear. I searched every patient file, research folder, and archived document for one phrase: Project Atlas. Only one result appeared. It was an audio recording created almost 7 months earlier. With trembling hands, I pressed play. A man's voice filled my headphones. "We're almost ready, Dr. Brooks. Once your memories are sealed, nobody will know you ever met the witness." Then my own voice answered with complete confidence. "Good. If anyone starts looking for me, they must believe I'm searching for the truth instead of protecting it." The recording ended. I stared into the darkness of my living room. Someone had trusted me with a dangerous secret. The frightening part was not that I had forgotten. The frightening part was realizing that I had chosen to forget. I barely slept that night. Every sentence from the recording repeated inside my mind until morning. I had not been forced to forget. I had volunteered to hide something so important that even my future self could not be trusted with it. The idea sounded impossible, yet every piece of evidence pointed in the same direction. The next morning, I arrived at the clinic earlier than usual. Before anyone else entered the building, I searched every cabinet, every locked drawer, and every digital archive connected to Project Atlas. Most of the files had already been erased, but one envelope remained hidden behind a row of old research journals. Across the front, I recognized my own handwriting. "Open only when you remember how to trust yourself." My hands trembled as I unfolded the papers inside. They were not research documents. They were witness statements. Several people had described the same organization using different names. According to the reports, wealthy clients secretly paid specialists to reshape painful memories. Some wanted to erase guilt after committing crimes. Others wanted to remove evidence before investigators could question them. The process was presented as therapy, but it had become something far more dangerous. Then I reached the final page. A single paragraph had been written only for me. "Evelyn, if you are reading this, the witness is already safe. The only person who knew the complete location was you. That is why you divided your own memory. If anyone tried to manipulate you, they would never find the truth, because even you could not reach it without finishing this path." I closed my eyes. Everything finally began to connect. Nathan had never lied to me. Sophia had never deceived me. Even my missing memories had not betrayed me. They had protected someone whose life depended on my silence. Learning English becomes easier when you notice how one word can change an entire sentence. Compare protect and control. Both involve influence, but they carry very different meanings. To protect means to keep someone safe. To control means to take away another person's freedom. Understanding this difference helps you describe people and situations more accurately. Later that afternoon, I received a phone call from an unfamiliar number. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. Instead, I answered. The voice on the other end spoke calmly. "Dr. Brooks, you completed the final step." I remained silent. "The witness has entered protective custody. Your divided memories are no longer necessary." "Who are you?" I asked. "A friend who promised to disappear after keeping that promise." The line went quiet before the call ended. No name, no explanation, nothing else. I never heard that voice again. Over the following weeks, my memories returned slowly. They did not come back all at once. Small moments appeared without warning while I walked through the city, organized patient files, or prepared dinner with Nathan. Every recovered memory felt like another missing piece returning to its proper place. I remembered meeting a frightened young woman months earlier. She had escaped the organization after discovering that memories were being altered to hide financial crimes and violent acts. She knew enough to expose everyone involved, but she also knew they would never stop searching for her. Together, we created Project Atlas, a plan that hid both the witness and the only person who knew where she had gone. That person was me. Many English learners confuse the words safe and secure. A person is safe when danger has passed. Something is secure when it is protected against future danger. For example, the witness was safe, but the documents were stored in a secure location. Small vocabulary differences make your English more precise and natural. Several months later, investigators announced the arrest of multiple people connected to an international network that had operated behind private clinics and research centers. News reports called it one of the largest psychological fraud investigations in recent years. I watched the broadcast quietly from my living room, realizing how close I had come to losing far more than my memories. Nathan sat beside me without saying anything. After a long silence, he smiled gently. "You look different." "I feel different," I admitted. "For the better?" I looked toward the window where sunlight filled the room. "For the first time in months," I answered, "I know which memories belong to me." He reached for my hand, and this time there was no fear hiding behind the gesture, only relief. Life gradually returned to its familiar rhythm. I continued working as a psychologist, but my conversations with patients changed. Instead of searching only for what people remembered, I also listened carefully to what they believed they had forgotten. Sometimes healing was not about recovering every detail. Sometimes healing meant trusting yourself enough to move forward, even when every answer had not yet appeared. Before locking my office one evening, I placed the blue notebook inside a drawer. I did not throw it away. It reminded me that the strongest mind is not the one that remembers everything. It is the one that knows when truth is worth protecting. As I switched off the lights and stepped into the quiet hallway, I smiled to myself. Some doors should remain closed forever, but the mind should never become one of them. If you liked this story, please like, comment, and share. More simple and emotional stories are coming soon.